Hare Krishna again. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books here at the live studios in Hode Farm, Olive Tree Cottage, in between Folkestone and Canterbury, in the southeast of England, called Kent. I'm here with a whole room full of spiritual seekers and personalities who are variegated and ecstatic from one end of the spectrum to the other. I feel very fortunate, actually, very fortunate. What we do, in case you haven't experienced this, some of you haven't experienced this, some are clueless, but they're going to get some clues here pretty quick. We're here to read the Srimad-Bhagavatam. I made a vow to read the Srimad-Bhagavatam out loud to whoever I'm with every day for the rest of my life. And that's been going on for a little more than a year and a half. And I heard recently from Divide, who was the person whose Facebook account we're using to record this, that we're getting close to completing the whole Srimad-Bhagavatam in this setting, reading every day. That's a really big deal, because the Srimad-Bhagavatam, you see the blue books there? You see the blue books here? And here? And here? That's the Srimad-Bhagavatam. That means we're a few chapters away from finishing that whole set of books, reading out loud every word. It's quite an accomplishment, actually. I think it's the first time it's ever been done in this medium like this. So if anybody has any suggestions, we have some techies here that can... Davide made a suggestion that once this is completed, maybe we should think about putting it in different venues, in different, like taking the sound out and making like a blog out of it, or what do they call it? Podcast kind of thing, just the sound, or putting it in another like YouTube or something, and so it's easier to sort out and not, you don't have to scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll to find what you want to listen to. Think about it. This is Seth. I'm talking to Seth. He's in the audience, and he's, I've heard, good at these kinds of things. So anyway, it's coming up to a monumental event to finish this Bhagavatam in this way, where we read for an hour, and then we have reflections, where anybody who's sitting here can reflect on what they've heard, or desire further conversation on any subject that we hear about, or just ask questions or whatever. And I guarantee you, in about an hour and a half, you'll be in a different place than you are now. I mean, you'll still be in Olive Tree Cottage, but inside you'll be in a different place. That's the effect of hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, associating with Krishna and associating with a liberated soul who has brought this Srimad-Bhagavatam in English to us. My spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So with that little introduction, Hare Krishna, let us begin. Before we start, we read a prayer that was written by Srila Sanatana Goswami. Srila Sanatana Goswami is the senior disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appeared on this earth 500 years ago. He is Krishna. Does anybody not know who Krishna is? I think everybody knows who Krishna. This is Radha and Krishna. That's also Radha and Krishna. They're deities of the same personalities in different places. This is also Radha and Krishna. So, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Lord Chaitanya came here 500 years ago, and he is Krishna, literally, in the mood of Radharani. He's Krishna and Radharani in the same form. And he came to do something that not only that no one has ever done before, including him, which is to deliver the means for achieving love for Krishna, which is our original state of being, our original consciousness, freely to anyone and everyone who's willing to accept it. So Sanatana Goswami was the person that Lord Chaitanya spent the most time instructing this science of devotional service, or Krishna consciousness, or bhakti yoga. The prayer that Sanatana Goswami wrote is called Srimad-Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, the glories of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. It appears in a book that he wrote to glorify the pastimes of Krishna in Braj, in Goloka Vrindavan, especially the childhood pastimes and the youthful pastimes of Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan, or in the place where he comes to when he comes to this material world. That's 5,000 years ago. So Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago, Krishna came 5,000 years ago. And when he returned to the spiritual world, he thought, it's been a long time since I've given love for myself to everyone freely. And then he came again as Lord Chaitanya. So this prayer was written after Sanatana Goswami heard for 2 months straight, almost 24/7, from Lord Chaitanya, the full philosophy of Krishna consciousness from A to Z. And then he empowered him to remember it. We're in the Kali Yuga, we don't have such good memories. But he empowered him to remember it. Not only that, but to elaborate on it in a most wonderful way. And this is one of the prayers that he wrote as an obeisance to the Braja Leela pastimes of Krishna. It goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidvandoditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Vakshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Sri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Mareka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mad Mahadana Mad Nistadaga Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhuta dayin atini chochata kada hanamuncha gadachin mam prem narit kantayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, we've reached the 10th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. There are 12 cantos in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. 335 chapters. And the 10th canto, the first 9 cantos lead up to the 10th canto, where we are now, which elaborates or describes the pastimes of Krishna on this earth 5,000 years ago. He stayed 125 years. The first 9 cantos explain the potencies, explain how the material world was created, explain the incarnations and expansions of Krishna and the pure souls that come from the spiritual world to assist Krishna in his pastimes and what he does, how he exhibits the potency of the absolute truth in this material world. And once one is actually familiar with those things, then the 10th canto reveals the original form of all those incarnations, the original form of the energy and the energetic source, and the material energy, and the souls, and everything that we can see and touch and feel and taste and smell and comprehend while we're here in this material world. And he reveals the spiritual world. Krishna, when he comes to the material world, he brings a replica of the spiritual world with him. And this is going on the earth, a replica of the spiritual world. The Lord comes to the material world to do 2 things mainly. I mean, many things, unlimited things, but they're categorized in 2 things. Paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya chajuskitam. He comes to relieve the burden of the earth by eliminating demoniac forces, demoniac persons who are causing confusion. And he comes to please and protect and relieve the anxieties of his devotees who feel separation from him. So this pastime that we're in the middle of hearing this pastime, that's why I'm giving you some background. Sometimes when Krishna's performing his pastimes, the demigods are higher personalities in the universe who are responsible for distribution of the resources and the administration of the laws of nature under the guidance of Krishna, or under the governance of Krishna. And sometimes those demigods, when he appears in his form as Krishna, who looks like a human being, they become confused. And they do different things to either test him, to see if he's actually Krishna, or whatever. Sometimes they even try to compete with him. So Lord Brahma is the first created being in this universe. Actually, we're all coming from Brahma. We're all of the same family. Everybody's interested in their family trees nowadays. They have websites where you can punch in your name and it'll tell you, who you came from, who your grandfather, like that. Everybody's interested in that kind of thing. Like to know what happened before, what's happening now, what's going to happen in the future. Everybody knows that. Everybody likes to hear those kinds of things. So Brahma was the first created being in the universe. And therefore he's very powerful. He engineers. He's given the material, he's given the blueprint, given the plan, but he engineers it, just like a big engineer. figuring out how to build a huge skyscraper building. He's got the plans, he's got the engineers underneath him, and he's got the materials. He has to get those all together and build it. So Lord Brahma does that for the universe. So when Krishna was in the process of relieving the burden of the earth of one particular person, his name was Aghasura. Aghasura was a mystic yogi who had the power to change his form at will. And he was commissioned by Kansa, the king of that area, who was looking for Krishna because he heard an omen that Krishna was going to kill him. So he sent out these different personalities to kill all the children who had been born within a certain number of days in a certain area. And so every day Krishna was having his pastimes with his friends, and one of these characters would show up, actually just before lunch. I mean, Krishna gets so absorbed in his pastimes that sometimes he forgets to eat. So part of his pastimes is these demons come right around lunchtime, and then he can stop playing and deal with it. And then he has his lunch. And then afterwards he starts to play again, and he gets so much into it that another demon comes and he has to deal with that, and then it's time to go home. So after Aghasura was dealt with by Krishna, I won't go into all the details because we have to read something here about where we are. Brahma, he heard from his position in the higher planets the glories that Krishna, his master, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had just killed Aghasura. And Brahma said, I'm going to go see him. So he went there. And what did he see? He saw a 5-year-old boy. Was it 6? 5. 5-year-old boy, and he had some yogurt and rice in his hands. And there was some fruit also dripping through the fingers. Like a 5-year-old boy. And he was there having a picnic with his friends and calves, because they went out every day to the forest, his friends, with the calves, and that's what they did for their enjoyment. And so Brahma, he said, this is Krishna, this is my Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Doesn't look like him to me. Let's test him to see whether he is actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then by his mystic power, he stole the cowherd boys and the calves. You might wonder, how could he do that if the Supreme Personality of Godhead was there with him? Well, he had gone off looking for the calves who had kind of wandered off and he didn't want his friends to interrupt their lunch. So he went looking for the calves himself out of love. And while he was gone, Brahma came, stole the cows and calves and put him in a cave in a mystic slumber. He was that powerful. That's very powerful. So Krishna came back, and where were the cows and calves? But he's Krishna. Krishna is omniscient. He knows everything. So he said, oh, Brahma's trying to play a trick. So what he did was, he expanded himself into all the calves exactly. I mean, down to the detail of shoestring color or everything about him, the way they were dressed, the way their mannerisms were, their color, their personality, everything. And the calves also. And then he went back into the village himself with all of these personalities who were himself. And Brahma stepped away for a moment of his time, which happened to be a year of our time. You know, when you're up in the Sputnik or the satellite, You can go around the earth in an hour and 20 minutes. It looks like you see the sun a lot going up and down, and it seems like a lot more time, but it's only an hour and 20 minutes. So that way time's relative. So Brahma's time, his one moment is a year of our time. So in that moment that he stepped away, Krishna, every day, went out to the forest with himself in the form of all those calves and cowherd boys and calves, and played and did what they usually do, and then went back into the village for a full year. And when Brahma came back, there was Krishna standing there with the same yogurt and rice and fruit in his hand with his friends, and it blew Brahma's mind. Now Brahma, he's got 4 heads and a huge intelligence that can manage the whole universe. It takes a lot to blow Brahma's mind. And then Krishna, in front of him, turned each one of those forms of the cowherd boys and the calves into 4-armed Vishnu forms, who are his expansions, by the way. And that's where we are in our story. Starting with text 51, chapter 13, canto 10. All beings, both moving and non-moving, from the 4-headed Lord Brahma down to the most insignificant living entity, had taken forms and were differently worshipping those Vishnu Murtis according to their respective capacities, with various means of worship such as dancing and singing. So not only did he see all these forms as 4-armed forms, now we're going to see what else he saw those 4-armed forms doing. Purport. Innumerable living entities are engaged in different types of worship of the Supreme, according to their abilities and karma. But everyone is engaged. Jivera Surupa Hoya Krishnera Nityadas. There is no one who is not serving. Therefore, the Mahabhagavat, the topmost devotee, sees everyone as being engaged in the service of Krishna. Only himself does he see as not engaged. We have to elevate ourselves from a lower position to a higher position. And the topmost position is that of direct service in Vrindavan. But everyone is engaged in service. Denial of the service of the Lord is 3 guesses. One word. Maya. Denial of the service of the Lord is Maya. Ekale Ishwara Krishna Ara Sabha Britya Yari Yachi Nachaya Setaiche Kade Nritya. Only Krishna is the Supreme Master, and all others are his servants. As Krishna desires, everyone dances according to his tune. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila 5, 142. There are 2 kinds of living entities, the moving and the non-moving. Trees, for example, stand in one place, whereas ants move. Brahma saw that all of them, down to the smallest creatures, had assumed different forms and were accordingly engaged in the service of Lord Vishnu. One receives a form according to the way one worships the Lord. In the material world, The body one receives is guided by the demigods. This is sometimes referred to as the influence of the stars. As indicated in the Bhagavad Gita 3:27 by the words Prakrite Kriyamanani, according to the laws of nature, one is controlled by the demigods. All living entities are serving Krishna in different ways. But when they are Krishna conscious, their service is fully manifest. As a flower in the bud gradually fructifies and yields its desired aroma and beauty, so when a living entity comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness, the beauty of his real form comes into full bloom. This is the ultimate beauty and the ultimate fulfillment of desire. Text 52. All the Vishnu Murtis were surrounded by the opulences headed by Anima Siddhi, by the mystic potencies headed by Aja, and by the 24 elements for the creation of the material world, headed by the Mahat Tattva. Purport. In this verse, the word Mahima means Aishwarya, or opulence. The Supreme Personality of Godhead can do whatever he likes. That is his Aishwarya. This is why no one wants to admit that there's God. Because they don't want to admit that there's somebody that's, first of all, superior to them, and second of all, can do whatever he wants. That's called envy. And that's what brings us here, to this material world. Ichcha dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata. Every one of us comes from the spiritual world into the material world because of two things. Ichcha, which means desire to lord it over, desire to enjoy, desire to control, and dvesha. Dvesha means aversion. I don't want to be under anybody's control. No one can command him, but he can command everyone. And in the material world, we don't like that. The idea that there's someone that is going to control us and we can't command him. That's our problem, actually. No one can command him, but he can command everyone. Shad Aishwarya Purnam. The Lord is full in 6 opulences. The yoga siddhis, the perfections of yoga, such as the ability to become smaller than the smallest, Anima Siddhi, or bigger than the biggest, Mahima Siddhi, are present in Lord Vishnu. Shadaishvarya Purno Yahiha Bhagavan. CC Adi 1.3. The word Aja means Maya, or mystic power. Everything mysterious is in full existence in Vishnu. The 24 elements mentioned are the 5 working senses, Pancha Karmendriya, the 5 senses for obtaining knowledge, Pancha Jnanendriya, the 5 gross material elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, the 5 sense objects, Pancha Tanmatra, the mind, Manas, the false ego, Ahankara, the Mahat Tattva, and material nature, Prakriti. All 24 of these elements are employed for the manifestation of this material world. The Mahatattva is divided into different subtle categories, but originally it is called the Mahat Tattva. Text 53. Then Lord Brahma saw that Kala, the time factor, Swabhava, one's own nature by association, Sanskara, reformation, Kama, desire, Karma, fruitive activity, and the gunas, the three modes of material nature, their own independence being completely subordinate to the potency of the Lord, had all taken forms and were also worshipping those Vishnu Murtis. Now just picture, remember? There's Brahma looking at Krishna, little boy, with all these cowherd boys, and all of a sudden they all turn into Vishnu forms. And then he sees these things along with seeing the Vishnu forms. Purport. No one but Vishnu has any independence. If we develop consciousness of this fact, I will repeat that again. No one but Vishnu has any independence. If we develop consciousness of this fact, then we are in actual Krishna consciousness. We should always remember that Krishna is the only supreme master and that everyone else is his servant. Ekale Ishwara Krishna Arasabha Vidya. Be one even Narayana or Lord Shiva. Everyone is subordinate to Krishna. You can put a flute on this side. Shiva Vrinchi Nutam. Even Baladev is subordinate to Krishna. This is a fact. Ekale Ishwara Krishna Arasabhya Britya Yari Yaichi Nachaya Setaichi Kari Nitya. One should understand that no one is independent, for everything is part and parcel of Krishna and is acting and moving by the supreme desire of Krishna. This understanding, this consciousness, is Krishna consciousness. Did you ever want to do something and you couldn't do it? Did you ever have to go jump through some hoops to go somewhere? Does anyone here not have to go to the bathroom? Every day? No matter what? No matter where you are? Yeah. We're being controlled. We're under modes of nature. We're not free. We think we are, but actually we're not. That is Maya. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahmarudradi Daivatahi Samatmenaiva Viksheta Sappashandi Bhavedruvam. A person who considers demigods like Brahma and Shiva to be on an equal level with Narayana must certainly be considered an offender. No one can compare to Narayana or Krishna. Krishna is Narayana, and Narayana is also Krishna, for Krishna is the original Narayana. Brahma himself addressed Krishna, Narayanas tvam hi nahi sarvadehinam. You are also Narayana. Indeed, you are the original Narayana. Bhagavatam 10:14, which interestingly enough is one of the prayers that Brahma offers to Krishna in the next chapter as a result of having his mind blown by Krishna in this chapter. Kala, or the time factor, has many assistants, such as Swabhava, Sanskara, Kama, Karma, and Guna. Swabhava, or one's own nature, is formed according to the association of the material qualities. Karanam gunasangosya sarasad yonijan masu. Bhagavad Gita 13:22. You see, all these literatures, the Gita, the Bhagavatam, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, Vedanta Sutra, they're all written by the same author. They're all coming from the same source. They all fit together. There are no contradictions. There are apparent contradictions. And those apparent contradictions, when they're reconciled in the mind, result in spiritual vision, complete happiness, eternal life, and full knowledge. This is what we're looking for. That's why the combined desires of all the human beings on this planet recently has resulted in the internet. Everybody wants to know everything. Okay, material nature says, we'll give you a little intelligence. Do it like this. They make the internet, and you can walk down the street. Siri, okay, click. Okay, my family got the picture where I am, what I'm doing. I must be God. Until the electricity goes off. Until the Wi-Fi connection goes off. Of course, now they're up to 5G now. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? So all these things are actually a part of the time factor. The time factor is actuating or activating all of these things. So all of us are under the time factor. No matter what you think you are, no matter what you want to be, you got to get old. What did Dylan say? You got to serve somebody. You may be a this, you may be that, you may be a this, you may be a that, but you got to serve somebody. Sat and asat, svabhava, one's higher or lower nature, is formed by association with the different qualities, namely Sattvaguna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna. We should gradually come to the Sattvaguna so that we may avoid the two lower gunas. And what are the two lower gunas? Huh? Yeah, meaning? English? Oh, come on, you can do it. You can do it. It's on the tip of your tongue.
Darkness.
Ignorance. And passion. Oh, I'm sorry, I gave it away. Sorry. You just pulled it right out of me without me even trying. We should gradually come to the sattva guna so we can avoid the two lower gunas, passion and ignorance. This can be done if we regularly discuss Srimad-Bhagavatam. Did you hear that? I'm going to say that again. Ooh. This can be done if we regularly discuss Srimad-Bhagavatam and hear about Krishna's pastimes, which, in case you didn't notice, is exactly what we're doing at the moment. And I made a vow to do this every single day for the rest of my life. And day by day, things get clearer and clearer and clearer, and I see more and more and more. Honestly. So wonderful. Prabhupada. Nashta prayusha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. Bhagavatam 1:2:18. All the activities of Krishna described in Srimad-Bhagavatam, beginning even with the pastimes concerning Putana, are transcendental. Therefore, by hearing and discussing Srimad-Bhagavatam, the Rajaguna and Tamaguna are subdued, so that only Sattvaguna remains. Then Rajaguna and Tamaguna cannot do us any harm. Varnashrama Dharma, therefore, is essential, for it can bring people to Sattvaguna. Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kama Lobha Dayaschaye. Bhagavatam 1.2.19. Tamaguna and Rajaguna increased lust and greed, which implicate a living entity in such a way that he must exist in this material world in many, many forms. That is very dangerous. One should therefore, excuse me? Speak out so I can hear what you're saying.
Could you possibly read that again?
You're so kind. Tamaguna and Rajaguna increase lust and greed, which implicate a living entity in such a way that he must exist in this material world in many, many forms. That is very dangerous. One should therefore be brought to the Sattvaguna by the establishment of Varnashram Dharma, and should develop the Brahminical qualifications of being very neat and clean, rising early in the morning, seeing Mangalarati, and so on. In this way, one should stay in Sattvaguna, and then one cannot be influenced by Tamaguna and Rajaguna. Tada Rajastamo Bhava Kamalo Bandayaschaye Cheta Etar Anavidam Stitam Satve Prasiditi. Bhagavatam 1.2.19. The opportunity for this purification is the special feature of human life. In other lives, this is not possible. Such purification can be achieved very easily by Radha Krishna Bhajan, devotional service rendered to Radha and Krishna. And therefore Narottam Das Thakur sings, Hari Hari Vipale Janame Gwainu, indicating that unless one worships Radha Krishna, one's human form of life is wasted. Vasudevi Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayat Yashavairagyam. Bhagavatam 1.2.7. By engagement in the service of Vasudeva, one very quickly renounces material life. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement, for example, being engaged in Vasudeva Bhakti, very quickly come to the stage of being nice Vaishnavas. So much so that people are surprised that Mlechas and Yavanas are able to come to this stage. This is possible by Vasudeva Bhakti. But if we do not come to the stage of Sattvaguna in this human life, then as Narottam Das Thakur sings, Hari Hari Vipale Janama Gawainu, there is no profit in gaining this human form of life. In other words, this is the purpose of human life. Sri Viragava Acharya comments that each of the items mentioned in the first half of this verse is a cause for material entanglement. Kala, or the time factor, agitates the modes of material nature, and swabhava is the result of association with these modes. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur says, Bhakta Sanivas. If one associates with bhaktas, then one's swabhava, or nature, will change. Our Krishna consciousness movement is meant to give people good association so that this change may take place. And we actually see that by this method, people all over the world are gradually becoming devotees. As for sanskara, or reformation, this is possible by good association. For by good association, one develops good habits. And habit becomes second nature. Therefore, bhakta sanivas, let people have the chance to live with bhaktas. Then their habits will change. In the human form of life, one has this chance. But as Narottam Das Thakur sings, Hari Hari Bipade Janame Gainu, if one fails to take advantage of this opportunity, one's human life is wasted. We are therefore trying to save human society from degradation and actually elevate people to the higher nature. As for kama and karma, desires and activities, if one engages in devotional service, one develops a different nature than if one engages in activities of sense gratification. And of course, the result is also different. According to the association of different natures, one receives a particular type of body. Karanam gunasangosyo sarasad syarasad joni janmashu. Bhagavad Gita 13:22. Therefore, then our life will be successful. Therefore, we should always seek good association, the association of devotees. Then our life will be successful. A man is known by his company. If one has the chance to live in the good association of devotees, one is able to cultivate knowledge, and naturally one's character or nature will change for one's eternal benefit. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That's purport, is the reason why we can't just hear the verses of the scriptures, of the Vedas, and actually understand. We need the commentaries, we need the purports of liberated souls to be able to understand. Shall we read that verse again? What we just heard the explanation of, which was quite extensive. What we just heard the explanation of was this: Kala, Swabhava, Sanskara, Kama, Karma, Gunadibihi, Swamihi, Dvastamahibir, Murtimadbir, Rupasitaha. Then Lord Brahma saw that Kala, the time factor, Swabhava, one's own nature by association, Sanskara, reformation, Kama, desire, Karma, fruit of activity, and the gunas, the three modes of material nature, their own independence, being completely subordinate to the potency of the Lord, had all taken forms and were also worshipping those Vishnumurtis. There's a purport in which Srila Prabhupada says, our original consciousness is love. That's why we're always looking for it. That's what we're always looking for. But we're looking in the wrong place. The reason we're looking in the wrong place is that the forms of this material world with which we identify as being ourselves and others are temporary. I don't know how much you love someone or love something, it is, the form itself is temporary. If we were just to go away and leave this room exactly as it is for 100 years and come back, it would be completely a mess. It's the nature of time. So when that original love for Krishna, which we have in the heart, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sabupabunai, every soul, every one of us, every soul, even the insects, they have Krishna Prema in the heart. That's the original love, the original consciousness. And when that consciousness is filtered through the gross material and subtle material bodies, it perverts it. It refracts it, and we become attached to this or that or whatever. But because we're not temporary, we're eternal, we're permanent, we live in the material world always dissatisfied until we come to this consciousness, whereby we can see what's actually going on. And now Krishna is actually enlightening Lord Brahma by showing him physically all these things and how they are serving the Vishnu Tattva and how they make up what we call the world that we live in. That is knowledge. That is full knowledge. Okay, we started a little late, so I'm going to go a little late. Does anybody have any objection? Or you're just so bewildered what I've just said that you have no idea? You're laughing like you understand something, so I'll go on. Okay. Text 54. The Vishnu Murtis that Brahma was seeing, that all the cowherd boys had changed into these forms, because these forms of the cowherd boys are actually Krishna, and the Vishnu Murtis are actually expansions of Krishna, so therefore he can do whatever he likes. And he's showing these things to Lord Brahma to blow his mind so that he won't do this again and try to test him, try to compete with him by his mystic power, which is substantial. Brahma's mystic power is substantial. It's the greatest mystic power in the universe, aside from Krishna's. The Vishnu Murtis all had eternal, unlimited forms, full of knowledge and bliss, and existing beyond the influence of time. Their great glory was not even to be touched by the jnanis engaged in studying the Upanishads. Purport. Mere Shastra Gyan, or knowledge of the Vedas, does not help anyone understand the personality of Godhead. Only one who is favored or shown mercy by the Lord can understand him. This is also explained in the Upanishads, Mundaka Upanishad 3.2.3. Nayam Atma Pravachanena Blabhyo Namedasa na bahuna shutena Yam evaisha rinute tena labhyas Tasyaisha Atma riminute tanum swam. The Supreme Lord is not obtained by expert explanations, by vast intelligence, or even by much hearing. He is obtained only by one who he himself chooses. To such a person, he manifests his own form. One description given of Brahman is Satyam Brahma Ananda Rupam. Brahman is the absolute truth and complete Ananda, or bliss. The forms of Vishnu, the Supreme Brahman, were one, but they were manifested differently. The followers of the Upanishads, however, cannot understand the varieties manifested by Brahman. This proves that Brahman and Paramatma can actually be understood only through devotion, as confirmed by the Lord Himself in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Bhaktyaham ekaya grayaha, Bhagavatam 11, 14, 21, to establish that Brahman indeed has transcendental form. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur gives various quotations from the Shastras. In the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 3.8, the Supreme is described as Aditya Varnam Tamasak Padastat. He whose self-manifested form is luminous like the sun and transcendental to the darkness of ignorance. And in the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 4.4.19, he is described as Anandamatram Ajaram Puranam Ekam Santam Bahuda Drishamanam. The Supreme is blissful, with no tinge of unhappiness. Although He is the oldest, He never ages. And although one, He is experienced in different forms. Sarve nitya shashvatas cha dehas tasya paratmana. All the forms of that Supreme Person are eternal. Mahavaraha Purana. The Supreme Person has a form with hands and legs and other personal features, but His hands and legs are not material. Bhaktas know that the form of Krishna or Brahman is not at all material. Rather, Brahman has a transcendental form, and when one is absorbed in it, being fully developed in bhakti, one can understand Him. Premanjana, Chudita, Bhakti, Vilochanena. Brahma Samhita 5.38. The Mayavadis, however, cannot understand this transcendental form, for they think that it is material. Transcendental forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His person are so great that the impersonal followers of the Upanishads cannot reach the platform of knowledge to understand them. Particularly, the transcendental forms of the Lord are beyond the reach of the impersonalists, who can only understand through the studies of the Upanishads that the Absolute Truth is not matter, and that the Absolute Truth is not materially restricted by limited potency. Yet although Krishna cannot be seen through the Upanishads, in some places it is said that Krishna can, in fact, be known in this way. Panishadam Purusham, He is known by the Upanishads. This means that when one is purified by Vedic knowledge, one is then allowed to enter into devotional understanding. Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. Bhagavad Gita 18.54. Touch Chajadana Munayo Jnana Vairagya Yuktaya Pashyantyatmani Chatmanam Bhaktya Shruta Grihitaya. The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti, Bhagavatam 1:2-12. The word Shruta Grihitaya refers to Vedanta knowledge, not sentimentality. Oops. Shruta Grihita is sound knowledge. I just wanted that to sink in for a minute. The word Shuddha Grihitaya refers to Vedanta knowledge, not sentimentality. Shuddha Grihita is sound knowledge. Lord Vishnu, Brahma has thus realized, is the reservoir of all truth, knowledge, and bliss. He is the combination of these three transcendental features, and he is the object of worship for the followers of the Upanishads. Brahma realized that all the different forms of cows, boys, and calves transformed into Vishnu forms were not transformed by mysticism of the type that a yogi or demigod can display by specific powers invested in him. The cows, calves, and boys transformed into Vishnu Murtis or Vishnu forms were not displays of Vishnu Maya or Vishnu energy, but were Vishnu himself. The respective qualifications of Vishnu and Vishnu Maya are just like those of fire and heat. In heat, there is the qualification of fire, namely warmth, and yet heat is not fire. The manifestation of the Vishnu forms of the boys, cows, and calves was not like heat, but rather like the fire. They were all actually Vishnu. Factually, the qualification of Vishnu is full truth, full knowledge, and full bliss. Another example may be given with material objects, which may be reflected in many, many forms. For example, the sun is reflected in many water pots, but the reflections of the sun in many pots are not actually the sun. There is no actual heat and light from the sun in the pot, although it appears as the sun. But each and every one of the forms Krishna assumed was fully Vishnu. We should discuss Srimad-Bhagavatam daily, as much as possible. And then everything will be clarified. For Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedic literature. Nigamakalpa talor, Galitam palam. Bhagavatam 1:1-3. It was written by Vyasadeva, Mahamuni Krite, when he was self-realized. Thus, the more we read Srimad Bhagavatam, the more its knowledge becomes clear. Each and every verse is transcendental. So we just heard 3 verses of the Srimad Bhagavatam out of 18,000. So this stunning experience should inspire us to want to hear the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. And by just hearing it and trying to understand it, even if you're not a scholar, even if you don't take notes and learn all the ifs and ands and buts, if you can just do that, your consciousness will be expanded, and by looking through that purified consciousness, you can see the world for what it is, you for what you are, and you can understand in every detail what is right, what is wrong, what is binding, what is liberating, what you do, what you should not do, etc., etc., etc. Hare Krishna. I'll stop the reading for tonight there. A little late, but it's okay, I hope. Okay, now we come to the magic time, as if that wasn't magic enough. It's called our open mic time. We have a little mic here that's, our magic mic that moves around the room by the mystic power of Dr. Austin. And anything that you heard that you, the local saint, Radha Raman, has indicated he wants possession of that mic for at least a few minutes. Go for it, Radha, go for it.
A thought came into my mind, Maharaj, as I was hearing the purport, especially to verse 23, but also even 24 as well.
54.
53 and 54. Because Prabhupada was shortly about to leave the planet when he dictated these purports, and I was thinking the Leelamrita, this thing that I can't quote it verbatim, that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said just before he left the planet, those instructions he gave to all his disciples, and then he left. And it kind of felt, hearing especially 53 and the end of 54, that Prabhupada's done a similar thing, but in his purports.
May I fill in the blank?
Yeah.
I was in the room when Prabhupada left this world. I was looking at his face when he left. And a few days before he left, I heard him say this. This is word for word. It went seared into my memory, and I'll never forget it. Just go on discussing Srimad-Bhagavatam among yourselves, and everything will remain clear. Now, this section is the last thing that he commented upon. He was laying in the bed and he could not move, literally. There was no flesh on his bones. All the doctors that came to see him were completely amazed. No human being. He didn't take any pain relievers or any drugs or anything. And they put you can see it. There's a video of this. You can actually see it. Jayadvaita Maharaj is holding the dictaphone, and Prabhupada is speaking, and you could barely hear it. And he said this, without editing: we should discuss Srimad Bhagavatam daily as much as possible, and then everything will be clarified. For the Bhagavatam is the essence of all Vedic literature. So what I heard him say, when he wasn't, just when he was associating with us, and this, it was almost, it is exactly the same thing. So that's a detailed, just confirming what you're saying.
Well, thank you very much. Oh, that was wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Was that the last verse, Maharaj, that he tells the
No, no.
Which one was it?
That's 54.
The last one he did was 54.
No, but he did 13, chapter 13. This is text 54 of 13, which, how many verses are there left? Can you see quickly? We must be towards the end of it.
64.
64, so 9 verses before the end.
So he completed chapter 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just, it's short.
It doesn't make it if it's just short or long. You have to like.
I would just say, I didn't click, so I really appreciate that you kind of say this, because Prabhupada is talking about Vanashram in that video recording, and it's just literally the same. It's no editing, like you say.
Yeah.
Clear consciousness.
Completely clear consciousness. So when you see somebody who is in that condition, but is completely in clear consciousness, then you can understand that everything that he said was actually liberated and true. And when you have that faith, when that degree of faith awakens, then everything changes. Everything, then you can hear. You remember what Jesus said? Let those who have ears hear. Everyone's got ears. Whole, little fibers in there that, by the arrangement of time and the creation of the Lord. We have nothing to do with it. So everything that we can hear, those beautiful sounds and beautiful sights and beautiful smell, they're all outside of our control, outside of our purview. There's beyond our control. So everyone has an ear, but not everyone can hear. So what he's just saying here is, if you want to hear, if you actually want to hear, if you actually want to see, if you actually want to taste, and all the things that the soul's senses can do, rather than trying to do those things through inert matter. Yes.
Can you please elaborate a little bit more on the, I think it's called the Brahma Muhurta time, the morning time? Why is it so necessary to wake up early in the morning and worship Krishna?
Because it is the law of nature. It's the law of nature. Just before the sun comes up, things light up. Now, before we had artificial light and electricity and all those things, things were more natural. So when the sun went down, people tended to stop their activities and go to sleep. And when before the sun came up, they would also, they have roosters that would go whatever they do. Just by nature, they just at the dawn they do it. Of course, there may be exceptions. A diseased, cock may shoot off his mouth at the wrong time. But the law of nature, by the law of nature, that time when it starts to get light, or just before it starts to get light, the sun's coming up, the energy's coming, you're activated. You naturally tend to wake up at that time. Okay, so now it's so artificial. Maybe this is completely covered and not clear, but this is the natural thing. And during that time, before everyone gets up and starts to do everything to cause passion and ignorance to flow everywhere and disturb the mind, that time is the best time for concentrating one's mind in devotional practices, in spiritual practices, whatever they may be. It's meant to be like that. It's a nature. It's the law of nature. If we follow the laws of nature, then things won't become like they are now, with a hurricane or a tornado or a forest fire or an earthquake or a right around the corner every few minutes on the earth. There's something like that going on now, but it wasn't like that before. It wasn't like that when everyone was following the laws of nature before the Kali Yuga.
What do you think about today's time and the time that is coming, with the birth of new humanity, where there's new consciousness? Now we see how large volume is the Srimad-Bhagavatam, but in the new time that is coming right now, we're having big, larger and larger abilities. So our ability to acquire information rises dramatically. So there is, for instance, this technique of photo reading. So you can read 25,000 words, I think it was a minute, and with this means that all these holy scriptures and this divine knowledge you can actually acquire it very fast. So I'm not saying that this kind of literature should not be discussed on a daily basis, but I'm saying that actually it might be possible for much wider range of people to acquire this knowledge
like this.
Amen, brother. Yeah, what you're saying is this. It's not that we have gotten more ability naturally. That ability is being given to us unnaturally. But we use whatever the technological advancements are. We use them in devotional service. So if, and I don't know how many people are going to be able to read 25,000 words a minute or whatever you're saying, but if it were come to that, then we would promote the same thing as we're promoting now. Only you'd be able to read it many more times before you left your body,
Yeah.
which is very, very good. Because the more you hear it, the better it is.
Yeah.
So the thing is not to dwell on what if, but to concentrate on what is. We have the Bhagavatam, whether we can read it in, like right now, I'm in the process of recording the Bhagavatam and make it into an audiobook.
Yeah.
Because although it may be that some people will be able to read very fast by whatever it is, the technological advancement you're talking about, the new age or whatever it is, but my experience is that as time goes by, the human being is less capable of reading, less capable of comprehending what they read in the normal way, and then writing it down or dealing with it in such a way as they exhibit comprehension. And this is causing a dearth of knowledge. They have as I made the joke while I was speaking, the comment, the purports. Now we can, walk down the street, point the phone, push a button, take a picture, turn it around, push another button, send it to our relatives halfway around the world. And that's what you're talking about, that kind of creative, or that kind of facility. Anyway, it's something like that. We're getting more and more abilities to do things quicker and faster and easier, which approximate mystic powers, but they're not actually our mystic powers. The mystic powers that we're talking about here are able to be done just by the mind and body we have, without any external, something external to amplify it or whatever. So we're not actually advancing. It appears like we're advancing, but the actual, capacity of the organism, that we're in, is not increasing, it's decreasing. And we're needing these things to do things. Anyway, that's debatable. It's not, some of the things you say may be true, and we're not against technological advancement. We're not against using technological advancement. That's why I'm using this Facebook and this phone in order to put this out to as many people as possible and allow them to be able to hear and share in this, etc., etc. Why I'm going to do the audiobook, so that people who are so busy maintaining their bodies and souls together, who don't have time to sit down and read, can hear, because the main thing is hearing. We get this information, we get the knowledge, we get the taste, we get realization by hearing. So when it's said that only someone who Krishna chooses can get these realizations, the persons he chooses are those who themselves choose to hear these things from him. Those who are eager to hear these things from him, he is inclined to give these things to. And those who are inclined to turn their back and keep their backs turned and their eyes closed and their ears closed to him, it's not that he doesn't want to, it's just that it's natural. If you walk in here, say for instance, I was living here and you were a guest coming in, and as soon as you came in the door, I ran over to the corner, put my nose in the corner, and just stood there until you left. And you was talking to me and I wouldn't say anything. I mean, how long would you be able to stay in an environment like that? And you just go away and say, this guy's a nutcase. I'm getting out of here right away. this guy doesn't care a fig for me. That's the nature. Yeyatam mam prapadyante, tangs tataiva bhajamyaham. As they surrender unto me, or as they approach me, I respond to them accordingly. This is Krishna's nature. And it's why we have, as souls, we have the same nature. Only this little tiny bit of that nature, but we have that nature nonetheless. We have independence, but it's not full independence. It's a very tiny bit of independence. And when Krishna appears on the earth, especially, Krishna appears once every 6,800,000,000 years. And Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna, comes 5,000 years or 4,500 years after that. It's a regular, it's a pattern. He's very punctual. Like the trains, they come on time. If they didn't, you wouldn't know what to do. He's like that. The whole universe is like that. No matter how far they go into the atomic structure, they see what? Structure. They see organization. So the basic principle of these verses that we've just read are that the whole universe is actually structured by nature, by the direction of Krishna and the assistance of Krishna. It's created and structured. And if we learn the art of living according to the laws that govern that structure, then we're free. To the extent we do that, we're free. Just like no one can make up a law for a country inside their own room. They may make up a law for what they want to do in their own room, but when you go out and drive, you can't make up the law in your house about what color you'll go or stop. You got to go and stop according to the law that's been put down by the government. So the universe is like that. The universe, there are laws, and that's one of the answers to his question. Why Brahma Muhurta? Because it's the law of nature that during that time the atmosphere is as peaceful as possible. It's not possible to be completely peaceful in the material world because it's made of material nature and time and all these things. But to maximize that peace, there are times when fewer people are doing nonsense. And it's getting harder to get that time because with all the artificial ways we have of staying and working, and that Brahma Muhurta is not as peaceful as it was when people were rising at the time when the sun was coming up, taking rest when when it's going down, eating only things that are locally available. Yes?
There's 2 questions.
2 questions from outer space. From cyberspace.
First one is from Yedutama Das. He says, Hare Krishna Guru... Yedutama.
Huh? Yedutama. He's in Russia.
He says, Hare Krishna...
He's an American in Russia. I wonder how long he's going to be able to stay there after all the politics that are going on lately. Anyway, we'll see. Go ahead.
He says, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. How are we supposed to understand Prabhupada's comment about Varnashram being essential for bringing people to Sattva Gun in text 53? Is it that Varnashram facilitates hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam, or does hearing Bhagavatam facilitate Varnashram?
Both. Hearing Varnashram about Varnashram facilitates, and vice versa. But what we do about it is, there's many places in Srila Prabhupada's purports in which he says that it's not possible to follow all the rules or regulations of the Varnashram system now as they were then in the Vedic age. We do the best we can. We follow those things we can follow.
And then there's one from Rati Manjari also.
Okay, Rati, Haribol.
Says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept...
She's in Amsterdam. Somebody was in Amsterdam. Oh, there he was. I knew somebody there was from Spain. This is the Rati I was telling you about when you first came in. This is technology.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances. Thank you for another wonderful reading. We are also fortunate to be hearing this day after day. I have a question which I have been wanting to ask you for some time. Tonight you were mentioning that the internet is a result of our combined desire to have knowledge of everything, which is natural to the soul. You also mentioned that they are planning to introduce 5G. I have heard several things about that, mainly that it is very unhealthy. People are very worried about it. My question is, what should an aspiring devotee's standpoint be in regards to 5G? Should we worry about it, campaign against it, tolerate it, or would such irradiation be potentially harmful to a devotee?
There's only one thing we can do. You can't stop time. What we can do is we can try our best to use it in Krishna's service. Whatever that means. We don't even know what 5G means yet. I mean, we know certain things, but it's never really been practically done yet to a great extent, to a wide extent. We cannot stop the progress of Kali Yuga, because that's being conducted by time under the jurisdiction of Krishna. And it's for a reason that Kali Yuga is going the way it's going. Because as the mode of ignorance becomes more and more prominent, the human qualities become less and less in proportion. And therefore, just like you can't reason with a dog or a cat, you can put a dog and a cat in a room, and then you tell them, even if your favorite pair of pants were, okay, now you guys you be here, don't fight. Just stay in here. Here, we'll give you something to eat. Here, this is okay. Now just be here peacefully. Don't fight, we're going on vacation. They will fight. Prabhupada used to ask the question, why will they fight? Because the soul in the body of the cat is thinking I'm a cat, and the soul in the body of a dog is thinking I'm a dog. Therefore you never see a cat go bow wow, and you never see a dog go meow meow. So because we're under the control of nature, we can't stop the flow of time as it goes down. Because as human beings stop acting like human beings and act more and more as animals, what nature does, what Krishna does through nature, indirectly, not directly, indirectly, he brings a stick out. Because the one thing that the animal will understand is the stick. When you go to Vrindavan, they have these monkeys, and they have been cohabitating with human beings long enough that they know exactly how to get what they want in different ways. And everyone's recommended to take a stick with them. Because when you got a stick and you hold it like this, they go, oh, okay, and then they go away. But if not, they'll come up from behind you, they'll take your glasses off the top, off your face, and as they're moving, no chance. We don't wear them when you go into Vrindavan village anymore. We take them off, put them in a pocket or something. They'll come, take it off, and in a second, they'll be from there, up in a tree or up in a, whatever, holding your glasses and grinning. See, I got them. Then they'll take them to the local merchants and get bananas or something. Then the local merchants sell them in the black market, and Vrindavan goes on.
Good business.
Huh?
Good business.
Yeah. Yeah, so 5G or whatever it is, we try our best to use it in Krishna's service. It's called what Prabhupada said, make the best use of a bad bargain. Life in this material world is not a good bargain, no matter how you paint it, no matter how you look at it. Padam padam vipadam natesham. There's dangers at every step in this material world. So while we're still under the modes of material nature, we try to follow the laws of varnashram dharma as best we can, those that we can follow. If we try to follow every single one of them, it would take you, like an hour to put on your tilak. Because there's so many rules and regulations to put on a tilak before you put it on, if you're strictly in the Brahminical culture. So Prabhupada just taught us how to put it on quickly so that we can go about our devotional service, and we still get the benefit of purifying our body by chanting the mantras and wearing our tilak. And like that, extrapolate that to every varna and every ashram. The rules and regulations are impossible to follow strictly. All of them, impossible. So we do the best we can in whatever position we find ourselves in, whether we're a brahmana or a vaishnava or a grihastha or a sannyasi or whatever. And hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam every day and try to understand the best we can. And if you do that, Lord Chaitanya is so pleased, and Srila Prabhupada so pleased, they will help. And at the time of leaving your body, anybody here not going to leave their body? I don't think so. Every one of us will leave the body, and if we practice during our lifetime chanting Hare Krishna, remembering Krishna with love, to the point where when we leave our bodies, we can do that, which is not easy. We have to be very habituated in a good habit, in the same way we have second nature bad habits that Prabhupada talked about in the purports. If we develop second nature good habits, then it'll be natural for us to think of Krishna at the time of death. And then we can go back to the spiritual world. We don't have to come back to this world which is within time and space, which everything's always changing and causing us to be confused and in fear of what's going to happen next, because we don't know what's going to happen next. That's the solution. It's the only solution. It sounds simple, it may sound radical, but it's true. All right, I'm going to stop now. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. You see what I said? The difference in the atmosphere now to when we first came in? It's palpable. It's palpable. So if you just do this every day, and 24/7, if you do this, which is ideal, then you will never be in the material world. You'll be right here, free from fear, situated at the lotus feet of the Lord, in pure devotional service. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Krishna ki jai. Lord Brahma ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow night, same time, same place, same station. Hare Krishna.